All right, let's jump right in and solve a puzzle that honestly trips up a lot of people, even experienced investors. I like to call it the profit paradox. And we're going to use a special tool, the statement of cash flows, to see what's really happening with a company's money.
So let me just ask you this straight up. You see a company, the headlines are glowing, they're reporting record profits, but could that same company actually be about to go bankrupt? What do you think?
Well, the answer might surprise you, but it is a huge yes. And believe me, it happens way more often than you'd think. The reason is actually pretty simple. The profit you see on paper is just an accounting number. It's not the same as cold, hard cash in the bank. And you can't pay your bills, your rent, or your employees with an accounting number. You need cash.
So how do we get around this paradox and see the real story? That is exactly where this document comes in, the Statement of Cash Flows. It's all guided by a set of rules called International Accounting Standard 7, or IAS 7 for short. And its whole job is to do one thing: show you exactly where a company's cash came from and where it all went.
Okay, so to really get this, we've got to learn to speak its language first. IAS 7 lays out three key terms that are the absolute foundation for everything else we're going to talk about. First up, the most obvious one, cash. I mean, this is exactly what you think it is. It's the physical money a company has, in a cash register, plus all the money it has in the bank that it can get to immediately. We call those demand deposits. Pretty straightforward, right?
Next up, you have something called cash equivalents. Now, these are things that are almost cash. Think of them like cash's closest friends. They're super safe, short-term investments that a company can turn back into cash in a snap. The whole point is to have them ready for short-term bills, not to make some big, risky investment.
And that brings us to the big one, cash flows. This is the whole ballgame. It's simply the movement, the money coming in and the money going out of all that cash and all those cash equivalents over a certain amount of time. It is literally the financial heartbeat of the company. Now here's the really clever part. IAS 7 doesn't just throw one giant number at you. No, it breaks all those cash flows down into three separate categories. Think of them as three different storylines that, when you read them together, give you the full picture of what's going on.
So, storyline number one, and you could argue it's the most important, is operating activities. This is all about the cash that comes from the company's main gig, the thing it actually does. Whether that's selling shoes, developing software, or making cars, this is its core business.
To make that real, we're talking about the cash coming in from customers who buy stuff. And on the other side, the cash going out to pay your suppliers and your employees. This is the engine room of the business. And for a company to be healthy in the long run, this number needs to be positive. It's got to bring in more cash than it spends.
All right, let's move on to the second storyline, investing activities. This section is fascinating because it tells you how the company is using its money to build for the future. It's all about spending cash today on things that are supposed to make more cash tomorrow.
So this is where you see a company buying a new factory or upgrading its computer systems, or maybe selling off an old building it doesn't need anymore. It could even be buying a piece of another company. This section really shows you if management is in growth mode or if maybe they're selling things off just to raise cash.
And that brings us to our third and final storyline, financing activities. This part of the report pulls back the curtain on how a company gets the money it needs to run and grow in the first place, and how it pays that money back. It's the story of the company's relationship with its owners and its lenders.
So this is where you'll see cash coming in from, say, selling new shares of stock or taking out a big loan from a bank. And on the flip side, you'll see the cash going out to repay debt or maybe buy back its own shares from the market. It tells you a lot about whether a company's leaning on debt or its owners to fund its big plans.
Okay, just a quick dive into the fine print here. For that first category we talked about, operating activities, companies actually get to choose between two different ways of reporting it. It might seem like a small detail, but it's pretty important.
On one hand, there's the direct method, which is super straightforward. It literally shows you cash in from customers, cash out to suppliers, and so on. Then there's the indirect method. This one starts with that net profit number we said can be misleading, and it works backwards, adding and subtracting all the non-cash stuff to get to the real cash number. Now, IAS 7 actually encourages companies to use the direct method, mainly because it gives you a much clearer view for trying to predict future cash flows.
Okay, so we've learned the language, we've walked through the three big storylines. So, what's the big reveal? Why does looking at cash this way matter so much? Because this statement is like a financial superpower. It lets you get a real sense of whether a company can actually make cash in the future. It helps you judge how financially stable it is. Can it pay its bills? And this is huge. It lets you compare the real performance of two different companies much more easily.
Look, don't just take my word for it. This quote is pulled right from the IAS 7 standard itself. It says, the statement eliminates the effects of using different accounting treatments. What that really means is profit can get fuzzy because of different accounting rules, but cash, well, cash is just cash. It puts everyone on a level playing field.
So I'm going to leave you with this one question to think about. After all this, the next time you're looking into a company, are you just going to glance at that big, shiny profit number? Or are you going to be the one who asks, "That's nice, but show me the cash"?